African-American history is American history. Whenever I have the opportunity to speak with students, I tell them this because I want them to understand their own investment in this history. The field of African-American studies has a long and proud history. Most recently, it goes back to the civil rights and Black Power movements of the 1960s and 70s, when college students, first in California and then all across the nation, began demanding the right to learn their own history and to be instructed by faculty members that represented the diversity of their own communities. We can extend this history even further when we consider Black scholars, some of them former slaves, some the children of slaves, who began to publish histories about the contributions of people of African descent in the Americas, Europe, and the rest of the world. This is Carter G. Woodson. He's one of the first African Americans to receive a PhD from Harvard University. He founded an organization called the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History in 1915. It's an organization that is still in existence to this day, except today it's called ASALH, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. They have a huge conference every fall. Thousands of men and women come from all over the world to present research on African Americans. He's also the reason why we have Black History Month, a celebration that he began as Negro History Week in 1926. Because this is a field of knowledge that grew out of struggle, myself and other scholars in this field, we work with an awareness of the broader implications that our work has for social justice, the importance of humanizing others and ourselves through the dissemination of knowledge and awareness. So it's a field with a long and vibrant past. But this history has been slow to make its way to certain parts of this country, parts of the Midwest, especially here in South Dakota. And I take very seriously my own role in helping to further this process of spreading knowledge and awareness, and especially furthering the social mission of the field. So I want to share a story about something that happened recently. This is my bio. I posted it in my course page for my US history class. It's just a way for me to introduce myself to my students. I tell them about my academic interests, my research interests, my teaching interest, and then I also say just a couple of personal things about myself. I bike, I go to the gym, and whatnot. I recently found out that a student took this bio and posted it in an open thread forum online. And here's what he said. My new teacher, how fucked am I? Now, there's a cultural test in that question. There's nothing specific that's mentioned. But the assumption is that anyone who sees my picture and this question is going to understand exactly what is being said. And it is understood. Almost immediately, anonymous posters began chiming in. Yeah, start lubing up now. You're fucked. Drop the class now. Might as well bend over. But as you read on, and it's a very long thread, the contributors eventually reveal what offends them so much about my bio. Nigger feminist. You're fucked, white boy. Take a stand against her Afro-feminist bullshit. Apologize for slavery at the start of every class. You know she's only in it for the Indian purge and the slavery bits, right? And one student even mentioned that he was dismayed when he learned that his science teacher was a Black woman, but he later decided that she was okay because at least she spoke proper English. Imagine that at a university. So this freaked me out. It scared me. It made me angry. I ran the whole gamut of emotions that you can imagine. I was scared to walk into the classroom. I wanted to march into the classroom and confront all of my students to find out who did it. And then I got scared about, well, if I do this in class, what if someone tries to retaliate? I was furious. And sadly, it made me question my purpose for even being here. I don't need this. I don't need it. And honestly, I became resentful momentarily of my colleagues in my department, who are mostly men, mostly white, who will never understand this type of humiliation and will never have to go through it. I even talked with my department head about canceling the class or having another instructor pick up the course load. So these comments were made before the first day of class. I had not said one word in one lecture or even seen them face to face. Why would this student do this? This student had never met me, but nonetheless was offended by the prospect of being confronted with difference, of being in a history class taught by an African-American woman. Now, I'm still new to teaching. I know that there are a lot of reasons that students may or may not like a class. There are a lot of things that students may say about a professor. But this is distinctive. This kind of language is a form of violence. It's meant to silence. It's meant to demean. It's born out of ignorance. It's not about anything that I did or said. It's a fear and resentment of who I am. So I was fully prepared to walk away from this situation, and many of my friends and colleagues completely supported me in that decision. But it occurred to me, what do I do when this happens in another semester? Did I come all the way to South Dakota just to give up? Am I going to continue to drop classes when it gets hard? And does this even square with what I believe professionally and personally? I realized that by coming here, by coming to Brookings, and by coming to South Dakota, I've accepted a responsibility to this community, to the students at this university, to share what I know, to share what I've learned, and I intend to honor it. I realized that my silence would not save me in this situation. Silence saves no one. So I went back. The very next class session, I walked into my classroom, I taught the class, and while the proper authorities are dealing with this situation, I've decided to use this moment to think about how moments like this can renew and refocus purpose. I share this story with you not to elicit sympathy or pity, but because I think it's an opportunity to think about our collective responsibility to this community. I'm rethinking my responsibility, and I would like for you to rethink yours. What can we do in moments like this where the right thing seems daunting or even unclear? So here are the solutions. Number one, speak up, speak out, speak loudly about this kind of ignorance. Viewpoints like this may appear to exist in the margins or outside of the mainstream of this community, but it makes them no less powerful, no less hurtful, no less demeaning. When you hear or see comments like this, you must call them out for what they are. You must make their conveyors public, even when it seems like the hard thing to do. Number two, expand your own knowledge base. Now, I don't say this just as a call to take my classes, even though I would like for that to happen too. But all of those things that you believe have nothing to do with you because they happened a long time ago, or because you weren't directly involved, or it didn't happen to you, or it happens outside of your community, stop thinking that. Whether it's a mass protest over police brutality, or a stop and frisk in a large urban city, or a teenager who was harassed or even killed because of their dress or because of their sexual orientation, stop believing these events have nothing to do with you. Because of that ignorance, that lack of awareness, makes it that much more difficult for good-intentioned people who come into this community and who try to have constructive and empirical conversations about injustice and inequality. Number three, pass your knowledge on to others. So once you've expanded your own knowledge base and you begin to pass it on to other people, see, something really amazing will happen in this community. That knowledge becomes organic. You become the educator. It's knowledge that you now possess, and it's knowledge that you can pass on to others. And you don't have to rely upon people from outside of this community to come in and to share this knowledge. You take your own responsibility in educating this community. So I'm doing my part. I'm here. I'm teaching my classes every day. I'm continuing to share my knowledge and my experiences. I'm motivated especially by those students who are happy to be in my classes, who are happy to learn. I was rewarded yesterday afternoon when a sophomore student approached me on campus and said, I've never had anyone teach history to me the way you do. I kind of like it. So I'm speaking up, I'm speaking loudly, and I'm asking you to do the same. Thank you.